Chinese Civil War, which lasted from the 1920s to the 1950s, led by Chinese nationalist leader Chiang Kai-shek and communist leader Mao Zedong, ended with a communist victory.
We are the communists who will take over the world and prevail. Oh yeah.
Kai-shek and the nationalists then fled to Taiwan. Taiwan had considered themselves separate from the Chinese government, thus grounds for a nationalist base, along with the US military forces, were settled there. Due to the differences between China and Taiwan, a Chinese crisis rose with the Soviets' intervention to aid China. The Sino-Soviet Friendship and Alliance Treaty, signed during the Chinese Civil War by Mao in Moscow in December of 1949, stated that each power will come to the aid of the other if attacked by a third party.
We can write that down.
As the Soviet Union offered nuclear aid to China, the Americans gave aid to Taiwan against communism. The conflicts between Washington and Beijing hence created the brinksmanship of a nuclear war. Both sides were pushing to the brink of war to see how far each would go by means of using nuclear weapons. Threats were sent to and from the Russian leader Nikita Khrushchev and American President John F. Kennedy, yet no direct fighting was done. The two leaders fought through showdowns in Taiwan. The crisis all started when the Chinese leader Mao ordered shelling in the offshore islands of Quemoy and Matsu, where the islands were claimed and defended by Chiang Kai-shek's Chinese Nationalist Force. The Chinese government then wanted to remove US military forces from the Taiwan Strait. China wanted to prove that they supported the national liberation movement in the Middle East with not only words but also actions. Soviet leader Khrushchev made an effort to resolve the crisis, but he was surprised by the Chinese readiness in facing a possible local war with the United States. Thus, the Soviet Union agreed to support China if the United States were to bomb them. The Soviets then would in turn bomb the United States. A letter written by Khrushchev was sent to Kennedy on September 19, 1958 due to the dispatch of additional nuclear-equipped forces and naval armada to the Taiwan Strait. It stated that should the United States use nuclear weapons against China, it would spark off a conflagration of world war, and thus doom to certain deaths of the American people. This then led to the decisions made and tensions between the communist powers, the Soviet Union and China, and the capitalist power, the United States.
Mao intentionally dated a military confrontation with the US, knowing that it could have triggered a nuclear strike against China.
You Americans have been in the Taiwan Strait for far too long, ever since the rise of communism in China.
The Taiwan government don't seem to have a problem with our military forces there. We promised them aid, so we will give them nothing but aid.
I want you out of the strait immediately because it is causing an uproar for the Chinese government.
The Taiwan government allows it. You have no authority over them.
Then we will not go easy on Taiwan, and we will continue to shell out the diamonds.
Yet as the conflict in Taiwan stressed only over nuclear threats, the crisis eased on October 6, 1958, when Mao Zedong agreed to stop shelling for a week in Quemoy and in Matsu if the United States agreed to remove military forces in the Taiwan Strait. This standoff was to test the United States' willingness to again cross the nuclear threshold. Former President Eisenhower and his administration saw Mao's gamble as a serious test of the US credibility. They understood that the only means of avoiding war would be through nuclear weapon and the threat to use them. If Mao kept shelling the Taiwan Islands, the US may have endorsed the use of nuclear weapons against China. Yet, due to the communist and capitalist compromise, the crisis ended in a whimper rather than a big bang. Along with that, distrust between the Russians and the Chinese continued to grow. Even though the two communist giants, Russia and China, were allies, there is still a competition between the two powers because of their race for leadership in the communist world.
We are the true communists, but we're taking over.
Thus, it caused not only mistrust but also an increasingly threatening factor in international affairs.
Gee, you put that fighting can we just need to get mad with each other. Just get all that in my eyes. Can't see mine either. We're gonna be arguing with each other. Okay, whatever. We're gonna. It's okay, we're not good.
Go.
Wait, say I am glad to be. Say I am glad that we can work things out. I'm so glad we can work things out. Me too. Gee, that's too long.
Communism could fail.
Thank you, come again.